Hi guys, so we are talking about living the private practice dream, and I'm going to put that in air quotes because it's like honestly real, but honestly kind of just sounds cheesy when I say it like that. So we're going to jump into it. I have my friend Jess with me today, who is also living this way as well. And so we're going to talk about shared experiences and, what's different with what he does and with what I do. And so grab a cup of coffee and it's morning for me and it's afternoon for Jess. So morning and afternoon coffee, grab them both and we'll jump into it.
Perfect.
Alrighty, so we'll start with talking about who we are. Uh,
Yeah.
Jess, since you're new to my channel and I want everyone to meet you, if they haven't already, you probably have. You have a great Instagram following. Let's have you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jess Romeo, and I am a psych NP and clinical social worker in the DC metro area. I'm also a trans guy, he, him, or they, them pronouns. And I started my private practice about 2 years ago now, which is crazy to think it's already been 2 years.
So cool. Wow. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
Alysha, a psych nurse practitioner. I teach other psych NPs how to start private practices to find freedom and balance in their lives. And then I also have my own private practice. Um, I, go by Alysha, birth name, and then my pronouns are she, her. And let's see what else is important to know about me. Those are the highlights. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I guess I could say that, you know, my practice has I've seemed to come across having a lot of patients, I think by no mistake or by no I was excited when it happened to be kind of like identified as a safe space for trans folks
Mhm.
and LGBTQ plus folks. And I was really happy when that happened because I remember when I was starting my practice, I wasn't sure how to like show that I
Mhm.
was open, you
Yeah.
know?
A lot of people struggle with that to know how to
Yeah,
communicate that.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so we're going to talk more about that
Mm.
as we talk, and then probably in future content we do together even more. But I struggled with that because, I first time I had a trans friend, I was like 16. And I think I was lucky to be born and raised in LA where it was seemed very
Hmm.
normal and I was kind of surprised when I got into the world and realized that
Yeah.
that was not the case. And
Yeah, I think you got
uh,
me beat by about 10 years there. I think
do
I had
I?
my first, I mean, maybe I was in my early to mid 20s the first time I knew a trans person. But I'm from Alabama, so it's a little bit of a different
Yeah,
feeling. I didn't actually transition until my 30s. So it's not something that everybody has exposure to through no fault of their own.
it's not. Yeah, 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 yeah. Actually, I was a freshman in high school. How old are you? I was 14. But yeah, anyway,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, so cool. So cool.
Hmm.
I was 14 and he was 18. But yeah, and then my little brother is trans. So yeah, anyway, I got off topic.
That's
Um,
okay.
but I wanted to say that that is going to be the lean of our conversation today too, is trans-affirming practices and the power that can play. So let's talk
Absolutely.
about living the dream of private practice starting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alicia, I'm really curious. Like, what are some of the favorite things about your practice? Like, what is living the dream to you? What didn't you maybe expect it to be about when you started your practice? What's fun?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Things I didn't expect that are fun.
Yeah, things you didn't expect that are fun or like a really lovely surprise, maybe?
Yeah, I feel like I was surprised that the patients that were coming to me were like awesome. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just like they were like, you know, fun to talk to and it
Hmm.
feel like I was, providing psychiatric care, like
Yeah.
I feel like my hospital job, I would kind of show up and put on my white coat and like go see consults and this is very much like chill, easy, calm,
Hmm.
fun. And I feel like it happens a lot more than a lot more now that my patients are more stable, but I'll find myself kind of at the end of the visit going like 20 minutes in. So how's your
Hmm.
meds? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
about we've
Yeah.
talked about, um their their trip to, somewhere
Hmm.
international, and we've talked about their artistic ventures, and
Hmm.
we've talked about all kinds of random
Yeah.
stuff, their boyfriend or boy drama or like anything, and then everything
Hmm.
fun, their meds. And
Yep.
so that was honestly just like a joy and continues to be a joy. Like my NP students,
Hmm.
where do you find these people? I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
awesome.
I completely relate to that. You know what's funny? There was this misconception about starting my own private practice that I think people just sort of chatter about a lot of different things,
Yeah,
about like what's not going to be good or, oh, have you thought about that? I think anxiety can really take over. But one of the things people would say is, I don't know if I want to start my own practice because then I don't know, I'd just be talking to patients all day. And I think I want to be able to talk to coworkers and other people. And it's
funny.
like, that's really funny to me now. Like I'll look at my schedule and get really excited, like all the amazing people that I get to see.
I agree.
And yeah, sometimes it's longer than 20 minutes before I'm asking about meds.
Yeah.
Yeah, glad that's not just me.
No, no, especially the last patient of the day. Oh, forget about it. It's like,
Hmm.
'cause I don't have like a hard cutoff at the 30-minute mark, but I mean everything can be moved. I mean, if someone needs to talk, someone needs to
Hmm.
talk. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like I don't feel like, yeah, how people say you are gonna have to listen to people's problems all day,
Hmm.
or like, yeah, you won't have coworkers to kind of break up the day a little bit. It will just be work. No,
Yeah.
I just don't really think that's true. Like I turn my laptop off, I hang out with my husband, I have lunch with my husband, which is awesome, like
Yeah.
awesome. He works from home too. He works in tech, and it's like that time could be spent with coworkers, yeah, but
Hmm.
it's like, I mean, it's wonderful. I'm at home
Yeah.
with my family in my breaks, and then I'm with my patients who I love talking to. That
Yeah.
was a surprise at how almost like easy it was.
Hmm.
That part of it, that
Yeah.
just that part, there's some parts that were harder than I expected, but actually probably not harder than I expected. I was like terrified.
Hmm.
So I think I had the
Yeah.
worst in my mind. So most things are easier than
Hmm.
I thought.
I think that is one of the most fun things, and just being a trans provider and being one of the only trans providers who can actually prescribe medication in this area means that most of my practice is other wonderful gender diverse people. So it just, for me, it warms my heart to look through my schedule in a day and see, wait, do I have a cis person today? Hang on. I don't think I'm seeing anybody who's cis today.
That's
Um, so I don't know. I think there's another misnomer I think that's out there about a sense of purity. And I want to try and just say this the right way because I don't want to convey that we should be boundaryless or that we should be
yeah,
friends with patients. Like I'm not saying that at all.
yeah.
And there's a way in which we talk about like not getting our own needs met in this work too that I think is important to hold, but it's really healing, honestly.
It
It's
is.
really healing for me to be able to kind of become the thing that I needed. And I think we all do that to some extent in
Oh,
our work,
1,000%.
especially, right? If we're in any caretaking field, we sort of become the thing we needed. And I needed a queer or trans mentor. I needed a version of a happy trans adult in my life when I was younger. And now I get to be that for trans kids. I get to be that for other people who are adults and just kind of be in community in this way that feels just incredibly reaffirming. Like it feeds my soul to do that. And that I think I didn't expect because I didn't know just how fulfilling it would be. I didn't know how recharging it could be to see a day full of patients. Like, can you imagine saying that when you were in a hospital or community mental health setting that I leave the day with a full patient load feeling recharged?
No.
That's
Mm,
that's just I never would have said that
no.
before having my own practice.
And it was never the patients. It was like the
Yeah.
system, truly.
Yeah.
Like if you take the system out of it, that
Hmm.
might give you a good idea. And then a
Yeah.
choice over the patients that you see. like
Yes.
a choice and no system, like now
Hmm.
maybe you can start to picture
Hmm.
what we're talking about, you know? And
Yeah.
that makes a ton of sense, Jess, because that is exactly what that is exactly where I'm coming from too. It's like
Yeah.
even down to like where my office is like the city where I had the most mental health challenges. And it's like, wow, I'm like down the street from the house where I was like suffering so much. I'm like in the providing mental health services right
Yeah.
there. You know, it's like it's amazing. And it's just like, you know, it's what little parts of my practices is like what my family
Hmm.
needed. Like, you know,
Yeah.
we struggled finding, you know, the best providers for my brother when he came out and, you know, struggled to find just figure out who needs meds and who doesn't. And
Hmm.
having someone talk through, you know, you could not do meds, but you could do therapy. Like, wow, you know, like
Yeah.
what, you know, most of my family have been on psychiatric meds, but it's like they got, you know, it's always from the PCP, you know. So,
Right.
and I think, yeah, I think there's something really healing about, yeah, about having a practice. And then also, Jess, you probably have experienced this. I think another healing piece that I almost thought you were going to say was like, I've never had patients thank me so much
Hmm.
and just say like, just the kindest things to me. Like, you've
Hmm.
made such a difference in my life. This is, you know,
Yeah.
you've done this, this, and this. You've listened to me. You've um been okay with my thousands of questions. You never made
Yeah.
me feel like rushed or
Hmm.
like my, you know, like mental health providers had in the past, or you know,
Hmm.
that's just like, wow. You
Yeah.
know, it's so
Hmm.
nice. And I never got that much thanks from anyone, any
Hmm.
job really at all. Cause
Yeah.
yeah, it just didn't.
No, I mean, because I think that's a good point that you make that without the system there and the choice, I think our sense of autonomy and agency over who we see, when, and for how much time really helps us to know we're providing the best care that we can.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know me, I'm always finding patterns and things, finding like little
Yeah.
analogies. I
Yeah.
think of, like the idea of moral injury in like physicians and nurse practitioners right now. Well, there's the concept within like working with trans folks, gender dysphoria, right, is the diagnosis. But then there's a positive called gender euphoria that we try to focus a little bit more on. And I think about what is the analog to that for moral injury versus like it's moral fulfillment or like values aligned. Like I'm able to practice in a values aligned way because I can take the time
Yeah.
because I'm the one who is in charge of it. And if I'm not practicing in a values aligned way, that's all on me. Like I don't have anyone that I can point the finger on. I am accountable to myself. I am accountable to my patients. And that there's just nothing quite like that in terms of a motivating force to keep me learning and striving and growing to take better care of folks.
Yeah. 100%. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't feel so horrible where like when you when you weren't kind of when you were needing to fill those gaps of how to help people, like it, I don't know, it just felt worse in a larger
Yeah.
system. It was like you didn't know where to start. You saw a lot of people. You um some people that you saw, they didn't want to see you, you know,
Hmm.
there's that. And so your private practice feels a little bit safer in that sense, and probably particularly for you. But I think, yeah, it's a matter of you just have to focus on what, like your continuing ed, you know,
Hmm.
to get better. Is that what you were talking about? Is like,
Yeah.
yeah, that,
Yeah. Well, being able to, I think one of the biggest gifts I've gotten in my private practice is being able to take the time to either do continuing ed formally and like getting hours for it, or being like having the resources and the funds at my practice
yes,
to pay clinicians are people in the community with lived experience
Yes.
in some of these conditions, whether it's an identity or it is an illness that I need to learn a little bit more about.
Yes.
Being able to pay for that consultation, like pay people what they're worth for
Yeah.
providing that,
Yeah.
and then listen to them and help that inform my practice. Because
Yeah.
that's something that I think it's hard, especially for nurse practitioners, to do that within systems where it feels like we have to justify our existence.
Yeah.
And to justify our existence, we have to artificially adhere too closely to like these official gold standard research evidence that just misses the boat in
Yeah.
so many ways. You
Yeah.
know, I say it all the time that I think wise psychiatric practice is living in the tension between gold standard evidence and what communities are telling us about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is just really difficult to practice that way within systems and institutions, especially as a new grad or even a new-ish NP in your first 5 years or so, to own that space and say, no, I'm listening to what the community is saying. I know there's not a study about this yet, but these folks weren't in the study.
Yeah.
So if we're not listening to them, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That's hard to say in systems, but in a private practice, you can both pay folks who know to teach you about that and then
Yes.
institute it. Like the
Yes.
freedom to do that has
Yeah.
been so amazing for me.
Yeah, and it's amazing because when you charge your worth, you have the funds to be able to charge someone else their
Yeah.
worth and learn. Yeah, like you and I have done plenty of learning from people in the community that, it's I haven't taken like a large program other than like
Hmm.
a conference in a really long time.
Yeah.
I'd rather learn from like individuals and
Hmm.
boosts other small businesses, and
Yeah.
I mean that's what we're all what like our little community has become
Hmm.
is wanting that. And I think that and then and then also filling the need with your offerings, right? Like we
Yeah.
all both pay to learn from each other, but we also
Hmm.
offer
Hmm.
some type of program or
Hmm.
some type of way to to learn. And I think that, there's my program where I'm teaching
Hmm.
startup, and then there's your program where you're teaching more of like, would you say that I guess it would be people starting up and then people, with once their business has started, has
Hmm.
launched,
Hmm.
how to make it truly trans-affirming, which is like I don't really know anyone doing that, and I
Yeah.
think just a lot of members of the community are left wondering like,
Hmm.
how do I how do I provide that? How do I, how do I be more trans-affirming in my
Hmm.
work and in my, you know, everything.
Well, and I think one of the things that has been really life affirming for me, in addition to having the resources to, pay my admin a W-2 salary that is fair and that is generous, is also to have the time to develop this program that has sort of been a dream of mine for a long time,
Yeah.
of being able to develop content for other people. And when I saw that my practice grew as quickly as it did, and I really understood the really difficult experiences that so many of my patients had at other places, I just wanted to, again, like be the thing that these folks need, be the
Yes.
thing that I might need in
Yes.
practice. So I asked myself, what would someone, especially a psychiatric provider, like a psych NP or a psychiatrist, what would that provider need to know for me to feel comfortable sending any of my patients their direction?
Yeah.
And then I created that. It took some time, but like
Yeah.
without having this practice and the flexibility of schedule, I wouldn't have had the time or the mental resources to be able to create this. And so I truly have an A to Z on trans affirming care because I think it's essential to give more cis straight providers who don't feel like they know enough or don't feel like
Yes.
they can claim this the permission to say, yes, please do. Like, we need you. We
Yeah.
need it to be rooted in
Yeah.
something real.
Yeah.
because there are a lot of folks who will just throw a rainbow up on their website or will say, yes, I'm trans affirming, I'm neurodiversity affirming, but be able to really back that up. Like that is what my goal was with the program for people who really want to learn this and who have the heart that you need to have to be a trans affirming provider and really a liberatory practitioner is
Yeah.
what it ends up being.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just really thrilled for the folks that I'm working with now, the things that they're learning about not just trans folks, but about how to support their businesses. I can't help but teach people the business strategies that I've learned
Yeah.
along the way because we
Um,
also need a trans affirming provider to be successful,
yes, we
and to
do.
be able to be seen and
Yeah.
found online.
Yes, yes, 100%. Yeah, I love that I love that you said that this really is like bringing it back. It's like a two-part living the dream. Like you
Yeah.
could live the dream of being able to focus on building a practice that you love and having, mentors in the space and online courses and supporting other businesses that can teach you how to do so. But
Mhm.
also you can be that person that's teaching um,
Mhm.
what you love to teach. I don't think it's any surprise that a lot of successful private practice business owners, the next step they go into is providing group programs,
Mhm.
um, educational programs, because it just whatever experience they've had, they want to give more, like
Mhm.
I know for me, I could mentor people and teach people one-on-one how to start private
Mhm.
practices. Jess can help people one-on-one how to make their business more trans affirming, but like the creation of a group program can help
Mhm.
so many more people.
Right.
um Having some, maybe some live component and some recorded content,
Mhm.
while they're watching recorded content,
Yeah.
that's the time that would have been spent one-on-one, so,
Mhm.
and it helps. And then another part of living the dream is it helps income.
Yeah.
It helps. Just there's no place you're going to work that's going to pay you for like just the diversity of things that you can be paid for
Mhm.
in a private practice. You can get a
Yeah.
job teaching in like an NP school or
Mhm.
or you could, or a RN school. You could get paid to maybe teach CEUs somewhere, like
Yeah.
maybe like a certification program.
Mhm. Yeah.
You could get paid for patient care for sure. You could get paid maybe to do some medical writing or things like that. But I mean, it's like
Mhm.
I've done all of those things and I've done them in the way that I want to, with a lean of what my passions
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
So I think
I
that's, yeah.
mhm. I think one of the biggest things that most psych NPs don't know, most healthcare clinicians don't know, is that we sort of have this idea of what the mold is and what the pathways are for how
Yeah.
to do the thing we want to do. We have the sense that there's only so many things you can do. If you want to teach, you have to do it this way. If you want to see patients, you have to do it this way. And living the dream in private practice was realizing that none of that is true.
No,
None of that is true.
no.
That you can really make whatever it is that you would like. It's funny, a friend of mine was looking over the curriculum that I have at my Gender IQ recently, and she said, I'm so jealous of how much you got to put in here. Like, I kept having to like trim everything down and make it fit into an hour. I was like, I got to create what I thought was most important. I got to create what I wanted to.
Wow.
And regardless of what people take on in their private practice, I think that's what I would want people to know is that you can create the practice that is your dream. You can create the schedule that is your dream.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like, I think everyone has a different journey there.
Yeah. Yeah. When I'm talking to people that are wanting to join my psych NP practice startup program, they're asking me, can I do this? Can I do that? Almost like for permission,
Hmm.
am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Can I work 1 day a week? Yeah, 1,000%.
Hmm.
Can I see patients at 9 o'clock at night? Yes, you can't. Maybe they're on a different time zone and they're
Hmm.
like, whatever.
Yeah.
And they want to do whatever they want to do. Yeah. Or could I see patients at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yes. Like there's no can I, like you can do whatever
Yeah.
you want, like I mostly do 2 days of clinical work at this point. That's what I
Mhm.
always wanted to do. And, I'll kind of, for me, cram a lot of people into a day, but cram is like up to
Mhm.
10 to 12 people. That's like quote a lot, but,
Yeah, that was a half day at community
yeah,
mental health.
exactly. But I always have to preface that. But it's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like there's no
Mhm.
permission needed. And the big permission that I had was like, and it goes to another part of living the dream is like I had this big hang up on what I saw psychiatrists in my community charging and
Mhm.
what I wanted to charge, because I wanted to spend a lot of time with patients and offer more services and do more with them, and I was like, am I capped at what psychiatrists charge? Like, is it like not allowed
Mhm.
for me to, because some psychiatrists, they undercharge,
Mhm.
they need
Yeah,
to
I think
be,
a lot of people
a
undercharge.
lot of people undercharge.
Psychiatrists, yeah.
Everyone. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So some of the psychiatrists I would see and I'm like, okay, the psychiatrist that charges the least, am I not allowed to go to make that,
Yeah.
you know, or more, and I
Mhm.
remember like a psychiatrist, friend and mentor of mine said, no, you need to charge like your worth and what you're doing.
Mhm.
And so that was liberating. And that's a live the dream moment because there's a huge cap in Los Angeles on what a nurse practitioner can make.
Mhm.
There's an there's an amount of money unless you're kind of seeing probably more patients than you should be.
Yeah.
Um, that's the only way to really make like, pretty good money. And
Mhm.
um is it livable? Yeah, but
Mhm.
there comes a point where you're like, I've worked so hard for this and I've created programs and I've created like, things that people want, what can I
Yeah.
charge for them? And to say like, because someone else is charging something, I'm not allowed. That feels like being an employee,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
that's like, the
Yeah.
doctors make this much money, so nurse practitioners need to make half, like
Mhm.
that's how that feels. And
Yeah.
you don't
Mm.
have to. Like that is a dream, that you can
Mhm.
be valued by what you put into it rather than be kind of like held down by your education level forever.
Mhm.
But even though you've learned so many things and taken so many courses and you do integrative psychiatry now and you do this and this and this and you spend more time with patients, but you're always going to be held down by the original degree you got, that just doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah. I don't think I've put Since starting my own practice, I don't think I'd put as much thought into the limiting beliefs that I actually had some control over. Like, here we go, like CBT kind of coming back to help me in my personal life. But,
Yeah,
I think when you talk about like seeing more patients than you should, I think there are small ways, like through our training, that we're sort of shamed, or at least maybe guilted is the better way because it is about behavior and not who we are.
sure.
But kind of guilted into the like, oh, okay, making more money or wanting to make more money is always a bad thing because the only way people go about that is by practicing irresponsibly and seeing too many patients. And that's just simply not true.
Yes.
There are other ways to
Yes.
not have a limit on your income, and it relies on really being authentic to what you want to do, being able to charge what you're worth, and like have the will to stay with it and to keep improving. Because the
Yeah.
market will respond, right? The patients will respond. If you're not continuing to provide value, then no, you won't be able to have unlimited income because you're not providing the service. So I think it's just a natural incentive to keep becoming better as a clinician. That excites me, and that's
For
not
sure.
something that I was exposed to before starting my own practice.
Yeah. And it's exciting to not just kind of like say the more money you make, it's like the more hours you have to put in. Like you can create group programs where um you don't have to necessarily put like a ton of hours into it, right? But
Hmm.
like I would have before thought, okay, if I see patients from 9 to 5, then to make more money, I need to go
Hmm.
round at another hospital and see patients till 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And that's not very balanced.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, just having this like kind of, it's almost like a cop out, like, oh, people that make more money, like they're doing something unethical. Like that's just
Hmm.
kind of a bit of the sentiment. And it's just like, yeah, there's other ways, but the system makes it seem like there's not. But
Yeah.
you create jobs and you create your own
Hmm.
little world. It's
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
give ourselves that permission to do
yeah,
it.
for sure, for sure,
Hmm.
exactly, exactly. Wow. Any other living the dream moments that like unexpected?
I think one of my favorite groups of folks to work with has actually become like, and if anybody watching this works with a lot of gender diverse people, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This particular subset of folks in this community, who many of whom are also autistic and have these vague chronic health conditions that
Mhm.
no one has seemed to diagnose or treat, things like POTS, MCAS, Ehlers-Danlos, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. And integrative psychiatry actually prepared me very well to be able to help some of these patients. But I think the living the dream for me is having so many of these folks come to my practice specifically because they know I not only hold space for that and see it as real, which what a thing to say in
Right,
modern medicine, but that's how it is.
right.
And things that were just intractable for years and they saw no improvement, they're getting better. Like they're getting better and they're seeing these symptoms improve and they're healing the trauma that they have with the medical system. And so, like, talk about like becoming what I needed, becoming what a lot of other people need. I don't have a lot of these conditions myself. I'm kind of subclinical on one of them, which I think it's a little bit of me search. um,
Yeah, yeah.
but that has just been my favorite thing to do, to unlock new skills that I didn't have in school and to be able to provide really concrete help. So that's my live in the dream moment, at least right now. What has been your live in the dream moment lately?
Yeah. So, I'm really open about it, and I've made a recent announcement on Instagram just like about my health and how it's just like it's a constant feeling of living the dream since I was first diagnosed with, this is going to sound very strange. I'm going to explain. When I was first
Hmm.
diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah.
um it was about 5 months after I opened my private practice. And then subsequently, I was diagnosed 3 more times since then.
Yeah.
And so we're about 2.5 years in at this point. And, thank God there's no metastasis. Like it's just trying to get local control of this one
Mhm.
area, right? And so I've had to, go through chemo, radiation, multiple surgeries, etc. And, I'm gearing up for what my doctors believe to be the final curative surgery, which is really exciting.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. And any other surgeries would just be like touch-ups. It's not going to be like, you know,
Hmm.
but, and touch-ups just, tissue that's been surgeried,
Hmm.
might need that. So nothing bad. But this is hopefully going to be cool, fingers crossed the final. And so the excitement here is that I genuinely believe that if I ran like a parallel life of me staying at my old job, I would have been on
Hmm.
disability this whole time because there's no way that any job would let me do what I'm doing. Like, there's
Yeah.
no job that would let me, like, if I have a doctor's appointment I usually know which ones are going to be a little emotional and I won't book
Hmm.
patients after, just to kind of have day after day where I take mental health days,
Hmm.
but I can work around it. I just don't book patients on those days. Or um like there was a time where I was getting radiation 5 days a week and I wasn't really, and then I would have to take a nap after. And so I wasn't able to really like work until like 2 o'clock or something like
Hmm.
that. Like
Yeah.
what job would let me for like 6 weeks or however 5 or 6 weeks, however long it was, to not work until like 2 o'clock every Monday through Friday, like
Hmm.
I just, and then
Yeah.
surgery, month off here, month off here, month off here, in my private practice, like I can get coverage. I don't have a
Yeah.
large patient panel. I created this group program, and this group program absolutely was driven by the fact that I was sick and I knew that I
Hmm.
wanted to make some income
Yeah.
and help people in a group setting
Hmm.
that's much more manageable. Like I could manage that program sick any
Hmm.
day. Like that is
Yeah.
the best, like that, the way that I've set that program up, it is the absolute best for, um, like when I take time off, I have someone that covers me and I hardly
Hmm.
even take that much time off from that group program
Yeah.
because the live component, it's only one day every other week, you know?
Yeah.
So even if
Hmm.
I miss one, it's like, then that's like 4 weeks, you know?
Hmm.
So, and I can be, not feeling the greatest and check the community forum and answer questions. It's not, we
Yeah.
have a big group, but it's not like
Hmm.
tons of, it's not
Right.
tons of admin, long story short.
Right.
So that is the living the dream moment is like, and I think that is like, I think people see that. And I tell this story because there might be some people with chronic illness trying to
Yeah.
figure work out, but there also might be people that have really complex lives, like sandwich generation that are taking care of parents and kids,
Hmm.
or new parents, or um, women that are wanting to, or women or individuals that are giving birth, women or not, that would need some extra time off with family
Hmm.
and that would just want to have a life where from birth to
Hmm.
beyond that they want to be with their family more. I mean, like there's just so many reasons
Yeah.
with why you might need more time off. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
everyone has complex lives. Like I really
Everyone
don't
does.
know. I don't
Yeah.
know. The 9 to 5 situation is for anyone,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
don't know that it is. And the more that I work with folks who have chronic illness, or the more that I work with different types of neurodivergent folks, I see the people who are able to succeed the most are the people who are able to start their own businesses and
Yes,
set their own schedules and set their own rules.
yes,
Because this is a social worker in me, but it's when a system gets involved that enforces norms that then people's options are limited. So if you can define the system, if you can define the parameters, and you can set what those things are, then you actually have a lot of freedom to take care of yourself, to truly recharge, rest, and do what you need to do so that you can keep doing the thing that you love.
yes, yes, 100%. Yeah. And so my leaving the dream is kind of interesting. It's kind of like
Hmm.
I can take care of myself. Like
Yeah.
that's a dream to me,
Yeah.
you know?
And I embrace it can look different over the years. My
Yeah.
living the dream right
Oh,
now is diving into helping people learn trans-affirming care.
yep.
Soon, living the dream will be taking time for my newborn. And
Yes.
in 5 years, it could look very different. It might be more time in my art studio. That it can evolve over
Yes.
time. And I'm so glad that your practice has given you this flexibility now because it's so critical.
It is. It is. It is. It really, yeah. You understand even more now that you're working with patients that are
Yeah.
experiencing the, yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope that we sufficiently covered living the dream for you guys.
Yeah.
This is such a big topic. Like Jess and I can literally talk forever about this. And, I think comment below if there's any questions that you want Jess and I to cover as a duo, because we have both between us a lot of private practice experience and
Hmm.
integrative psychiatry experience and LGBTQ plus affirming care experience. So anything that you guys want to hear from us, we're happy to make more. And I'm gonna put down in the description, I'm gonna put links to how to learn more about my program and how to learn more about Jess's program as well, if either of those spiked your interest. So, all right,
Yeah.
everybody, take care.
Yeah. Take care.